Well, hello everyone. You're here to show you that the first job story. You say your activity right here is that this right here would be like what you call as like example right here. Say if what my homework is like the daily homework would probably be is like knowing about as I wrote on here is like this story talks about when I was young I wondered what my first job would be. And of course, I worked at McDonald's, for 3 years until I moved, say, into retail. And of course, it's like I, thought I, could get a job, say, working, maybe plowing streets. And of course, during the snowstorms it was. And you see right here is I went ahead and drew the, let's just say if this was me right here. And with, you got right there is a picture right there of me, and then of course is the draw like what you call is like a coloring a little bit right there with the gray right there coloring crayon it is, but that you have right here is like a say an example right here of what I would look like if I would be plowing the say streets. But I remember that whenever I was young that I used to always wonder about it's like jobs that I could always think about that knowing about that the amount of money that I was getting, of course, a week on allowances, and just knowing about that I had my mind, of course, set a couple of times for to be able to earn more money. And a lot of people probably think about it's like between full time and part time work. It is just knowing about that if you do your homework, it is knowing about between you see full time. If you can handle full time, see a full time position, it is full time, or say or part time, it is. And with some people probably think about that, knowing about what it is, and then of course about really what you can do and what you cannot do and stuff. But just knowing about that, the basics about the requirements, requirements for it's like for what you can handle. And I would probably think about it's like with the requirements though is just knowing about it's like really, and if you for what you're good at. And then of course like your list can go on. It's like what you're capable of being able to handle. And then of course a few other things too, just knowing about it's like if if you're good on computers or Excel, say Excel files, or if you are good on say operating see here a fax machine. If you want to work in a business, operate fax machine, or Toodle, I can maybe give all kind of like say kind of examples, say to the Toodle waiver or something like that. Say a profile, or maybe working as a say a clerk, maybe bank clerk or anything like that. Just knowing about if you want to maybe work at a bank. I never worked at a bank or a hospital, but a lot of people probably think about is like maybe a first job is maybe they like to work at a bank, say maybe or a restaurant. It is. It's like right there is for restaurant. But other than that, knowing about that, it's like for the restaurant or the say the cafe. It's like coffee shop. I guess you could say coffee shop. Anyway, list goes on. But other than that, gift shop. But places that you would like to work, and then I can remember that whenever I was young, that knowing about it's like one of the jobs that that I would maybe like to do. Of course, was like whenever I was getting like a weekly allowance, and I can remember that whenever I would get a job somewhere, I kept thinking about that. Yeah, that family or friends or whoever would ask. It's like if they can borrow any money. It was I can remember that some people would ask to borrow money. And then of course a couple of times I said I would have it, and a couple of times I would not have it. But on the other hand too, to knowing about if it's either money or if it's the fact about that maybe you just want to get out of the house. I'm sure with most kids that they say that they may want to get a job maybe at Taco Bell or maybe at Arby's or whatever, just to get out of the house, or maybe to earn some more pocket money. But then on the other hand too, if anybody were to think about, it's like if you really wanted to get out of the house, maybe to go to get a job, save up for a car. I know that somebody that I used to talk to, of course, that a few people that would say that they want to save up to go to college or for a car, and more likely they could probably think about that well, good luck, because more likely that they're going to be looking for a deposit of at least 20% or something like that. With most of those car dealers, it's like waiting for a deposit, at least $1,500 or $500 or something like that. They say down payment or something like that. But other than that you have it to where that if you want to think about saving up your money for anything that you say maybe casualty or anything like that, anything really expensive, that I can remember back in 1900s, it was that a friend of mine told me that him and his brother were trying to save up for a Sega Genesis console, it was, and say 1991 I think was the year of that. And then I think see, what did I want to save up for those couple years ago? I think back in 92, 93, I always wanted to save up for a computer, and then of course, and knowing about how I have one, and a lot of time like knowing about kind of got a job based on the fact about using a computer. It is just knowing about that that if you're going to be using a computer, it is that I don't use it, of course, to work with Microsoft Paint or nothing, but I use it mainly to manage bills and all that other stuff. But other than that, it's like of course to make phone calls and stuff like that. Maybe to operate email. It is use email and say office programs. But right here, I went ahead and drew right here is a picture of me right here. Is a drawing, I would say, of me right here operating, say, a snowplow. I at one time I want to operate one of those, because I was just thinking about that. That the times I've hopped into a go-kart, I can remember I would get into a go-kart a couple of times. One time, if I could recall where it was, that with my family took me to this one go-karting place. It was that I don't think it was in St. Charles or St. Peter's, but it was a go-karting place, and I remember that they let me get into a go-kart, and I was trying to they had pedals. I say describe they had pedals kind of like this right here, that they would have a pedal right here. One is for for gas, one was for accelerator. It was, and I remember putting my foot down on one of those. I could barely, I can remember during that time I can barely reach the steering wheel, it was, but I would put my foot down on the accelerator, and it wasn't doing nothing. It's like that I'll be stepping on it, and it's like, well, you're not, your legs are not long enough to be able to reach the pedal. It is. So knowing about with me that I've grown a few feet, say a few inches tall, it is since then. So whenever I was young, that I could probably think about, I was only like I think 5 foot 5'2", I think was my height, something like that. 5'2". I was pretty short whenever I was young, whenever I was about 10, 11 years old. It was especially around the month of June. I could be thinking about it's like my birthday, just knowing about with my birthday, that like knowing about how I want to celebrate. A couple of times I even had my party at McDonald's, and they had like a play area. But then knowing about with me that the job that I will be getting is talking about with the young kids, and of course with the grandkids, it is just knowing about the types of jobs that they think that they would be doing whenever they get older, and the things that they would really understand, is like knowing about that I would like to have a job. I would like to have a job working for a magazine catalog publishing company or anything like that. It's like that particular stuff that you hear about almost every day about dream job. It is a lot of times people probably think about dream job. It's like that's a lot of times the way people look at it is a dream job. Not really what you call and that not really a job what you call is knowing about that. Hey, other than a dream job, it's not what you call the favor job, or what you call is like the master maid job or anything like that, or the house chore or anything like that. Any type of job that you think that you'll be able to get nowadays, you would think about that that you love it so much that you'll do it at home. But really, the only the job I have now, of course, is knowing about that. Whenever they like that whenever they use my ideas, of course, which that sometimes they listen to my ideas and sometimes they don't. If you were to get a job at Walmart or someplace that if they think about it's like that yeah, it's like what are your skills and knowing about that. Well, we are not looking for somebody who's a high school dropout or whatever. We're actually looking for somebody who's a graduate who has a college degree or something like that. And especially like in the medical lab, it is the medical lab that they would usually tell you that hey, that you don't have the right degree or whatever to work this position, or we don't need you anymore to work this position or something like that. But whenever I was working at McDonald's, of course, that I remember that that was right after I turned 15, out of 15, 16, I think it was, and I can remember that quite a few people that were working there were even hired whenever they were 15 and a half, and they were pretty restricted for what they could use there at the restaurant. It was like the trash compactor or the register. I think you had to be 16 or 17 to use the register as it was. But on your hand too, to know about the snowplow, because I remember that where I used to live over there, I would say at the old house where I used to live, and of course a few other places where I used to live, used to think that that this was the type of job that I would like to do. Of course, other than drawing it out, is the type of job I want to do was to operate a snowplow, and it looks like a zero tolerance lawnmower. It's like I got right here. The way I drew it, of course, I have it drawn in half springtime type colored and a half of course in winter type weather winter hazard type weather. More like a bad thing about it is like if you wanted to operate one of those lawnmowers, those big zero tolerance lawnmowers, you say on the lawn it is. But a lot of people probably think about, hey, that we don't, some people probably think about it's so easy a kid can do it, but on the other hand, knowing about, like with me, that whenever I was a kid, that a lot of times if it was the grandma or grandpa or whoever, it'd be like, I don't want you even climbing up the tree. That tree, the kids would more likely like to climb up trees. Whenever they're young, it is that they say that if they got the energy, they'll go ahead and climb up a tree, it is. But then if they want to go ahead and hop on a lawnmower, it's just knowing about, I want to earn some extra pocket money, I can go ahead and get a job working at operating a lawnmower or operating a snow plow, be plowing the streets or anything like that. Maybe delivering letters. If I can remember right, that one job I think I did have, of course, was I don't even know if it was really a job. I think it was going on up at the church or something like that. But one that I think it was one interest I had, of course, was newspaper rolling. It's like getting a job rolling newspapers. It was, and I think I even thought about being a postal man. But a lot of times people probably think about if you were to get your driver's license or commercial license or whatever, and just knowing about that the types of things that you would like to do whenever you get older. It is. There may be some kids that may say that whenever you get older, you want to go ahead and you want to go ahead and cause trouble at home. Maybe think about, I'm old enough to drink or I'm old enough to buy cigarettes or whatever. But on the other hand, too, knowing about that the types of jobs that you can maybe think that you can do. One of those, of course, is doing yard work, and then maybe being a fisherman or anything like that. But a lot of ways I could probably think about, really. The so-called I call dream job is something that some people probably think about. It's something that you always want to do, and sometimes you could probably say it's stress-free, always stress-free on the other hand too. But I'm like, maybe not always stress-free. And even if you always want to be a doctor or always want to be a lifeguard, it is that if you always wanted to invent something that everybody would like to use one of these days. But on the other hand too, knowing about that, hey, that if you were to, which is always create, say, imagination and knowing about the things that you would like to do, the things that you would like to explore. Some people that may say that like to go outside and watch the birds, flying in the sky. It is. It's right here is the birds. The birds flying in the sky. Make some good money. If you were to do research about that, the school project it is. Where the types of birds that world birds, write an encyclopedia or whatever about birds and stuff. But Other than that, I could probably think about is that the things that you can buy nowadays in the store nowadays, and just knowing about, hey, that the types of things that you can buy in the store nowadays that you know about is like with the crayons. It's like how old you have to be to buy this, just to be able to do some, say, art clean, designs it is, and stuff. How old you have to be to buy this, this marker right here. With the marker, it is. But on your into knowing about that, yeah. That you if there's really any age limit, and more likely that I bought things before that did have an age restriction. Of course, one of those, of course, would be like a WD-40 for your car. I know people have probably used it, for to loosen up the belts inside of, say, a riding lawnmower or maybe a go-kart or whatever, WD-40, and then of course with other cooking spray that they may have an age restriction on cooking spray, anything flammable that you could buy in the store that more likely they say that you had to be 18 or older to buy it. Maybe paint products. If you were to get a job where you do art, artistic work, such as paint works and stuff like that. And I don't know if back whenever I was young, whenever I used to buy computer software, it was, or it could have been telephones or anything like that. As long as you have money, then more likely that they would let you buy it. And they may change the rules back then, like at Kmart or other places, like maybe in the mall or whatever, that they may have it to where that like pets. I know that they changed the rule that used to be. It's like knowing about you go in there and buy a pet. Some places that they say that you had to be 18 or older, have a parent or a guardian with you in order to be able to buy it. And then some people say, well, as long as you had the money to buy them, they're $16.99 or something like that. But $25.99 or whatever you call it, if you wanted to buy something from the pet store or something like that. But other than that, but with jobs though, that you could probably think about with most jobs, common jobs, it is just knowing about the things that you say with the calculator. It is think about the types of jobs that you can think about you'll be able to get with the calculator. It's like you'll be able to download games and stuff like that on a calculator. But you probably think about that the types of jobs that you could think about that you think about like more like a teaching job that the people probably think about. It's like it's like the times or multiplication tables it is, or anything like that, or fractions it is. That teaching job it is. I remember that you went in there to the store to ask them if they had any globes, of course, and it's like knowing about you want to be a teacher. I'm like, well, not necessarily, but anything, just keep a globe around just to kind of say the world view, say of the different maps and stuff. I remember geography was my favorite. I think I taken geography 6th grade year, and I remember my freshman year over there at St. Charles West. It was I took geography class, and I remember that I thought that was pretty simple compared to other subjects I've had, of course, with government, and then of course a few other subjects it is. But on the other hand too, knowing about, we could probably think about, it's like we can maybe pick one of our favorite subjects, of course, and other than say language arts, you have right here is electronic dictionary it is. But knowing about any other toys that we could probably think about, like to learn and play around with, it's like maybe the electronic pair of glasses, like what I heard maybe with Google Glass, or the Atome frame or anything like that. Anything that they more likely come up with nowadays related to that's connected to a computer, or that's connected to like a little transmitter device where you could the micro eyeball or anything like that, and the Magneto eyeball or anything like that could be able to read people's minds, is knowing about. It's like and to answer that friend, answer that pal, or anything like that. The game will answer that pal. But other than that, is like knowing about the details right here. Is like so far as the story about the first job story it is. It's like talking about. It's like talk a lot, but on here and too to keep in mind and knowing about. It's like the type of smiley face I would get knowing about. That this is the grade that I would get knowing about. It's like how well I talked about it. So far as for today's date, it'll be it's like for June the 11th it is of 2014. And so this is my story. I would say is the first job story. Talked about it. It's like for the first job story coloring.